Hello and welcome to my video on the drawing of Meet the Morning Mandala. So I started with a larger piece of paper this time. I had decided I just pulled out a big piece of paper and decided I wanted to do a mandala on it. Didn't have too many ideas on what I wanted to do with this. I did know that I wanted to do some circles around a circle with them all being the same size and try to put some stars in it somehow. So what you can see me doing here is I was trying to figure out what size circles I can do on this size of piece of paper. So I was just playing around with the compass and the ruler and figuring out the main size of the circles. So what I did is I drew the first one in the middle after I'd found the center of the paper and put two lines, one horizontal and one vertical, just so I have an idea, laying out sort of grids. And once I had figured out the size of my circle, I laid them all out, and then I drew a round circle around the whole thing. And then this next step that I'm doing is I'm trying to find the diagonal lines that will go through the center of the paper there. So I just did that very quickly. More grids just to lay out so I have an idea of where everything is on the paper and make sure everything's good and close. And then what I did is I just began to lay out some more grids as I was just playing around on the piece of paper. Here you can see I put a circle or a square down and then put some smaller circles just as I was brainstorming as I was going through this. And then I saw this on the outside of the circle that there was this blank spot that I wanted to fill. And I wasn't too sure what I wanted to do with it yet, but I knew that I could do a half circle in that area. So I just sketched them in, and I was going to go back later and figure out how I was going to fill it all up. So I knew I wanted to do something with stars again, since I have this fascination right now with stars. So here I am just laying out the grid on how to draw a star in a circle. I've made other videos showing the details on how to do this, so I'm not going to go through it by step just to save some time here. So what I did is I just put down the main points on the outside of the circle and for the pentagon, and then proceeded to put in the stars. So I knew I was going to do more than one star. So I did one in the center there and then another one in the middle of that one. And then the cool thing is that I decided I wanted to do kind of like stars going out in each of the arms of the big star. And I had seen how to do this from someone else, and I wanted to take on this cool technique. So you can see me here. Basically, you just measure out the length of the star's arms, and then you extend that outwards into the big star arm, and then you'll see that there's actually a pentagon shape in that area, and you just break it down into the star shape. It's a little hard to see, so watch as I do it in the other four arms here. I actually knew that I could do all of the arms at the same time and didn't have to keep changing the size on my compass, because I was using the compass as a measuring tool. And then I also wanted to make my own twist on this, and I decided to draw lines extending in between the arms to add a bit more depth to this. So I'm just laying out the grids there for the stars. And then the next part is I wanted to fill in these smaller circles I had, and I knew I wanted to do some sort of flower of life shape, and it was going to be quite basic, so I just left it with the four arms there, and with a square around them. And then the next part was I wanted to do a bigger flower of life in the bigger circles. So that's what I was doing in the bigger circles there. And sorry for the video, my camera was acting up as I was going through the filming process, so bear with me. And then these half circles, I got the idea of doing some more stars. So what I did is I basically just drew a big circle that extended outside of my my mandala, and then put in I'm just building the star shape here. And I knew that I wasn't going to be using the whole star, but I wanted to use some of it. So you can see it'll be the two bottom parts of the star legs here and a little bit of the middle of the star. And I'm just building up the little stars that are out in the middle of these arms here. You can see me doing that here. And then the cool thing that I find about building these mandalas is that I don't have a finished product in mind. I build these out, so each step I take, I look at the shape and I'm like, what do I want to fill this up with? And then I add the elements that I think will go well with it. Sometimes I'm a little wary as I start putting these shapes down, because this one was interesting because I had the harsher lines of the stars with the shapes of the flower of life, which are really round. And I wasn't too sure if the elements would all work together, but as I was sketching them out, I could see that it was going to work really well. I also extended this star. You can see I extended another leg out into that smaller flower of life there. I had just seen that blank spot and was like, hey, this actually will fit beautifully. If I just put these two lines here, it'll extend out and it will work out really well. So here I'm just adding a couple more details, a couple more lines around the outside of the circle, and I did a couple more inner lines as well. And the thing I love doing the most is actually going back with the pen, because all these pencil lines, I may not use all the pencil lines. They're there as a guidance to see if they're just there to help build the whole thing. And so when I go back with a pen, I just take the lines that I want and I go with it. And you can actually see here that some of them I didn't use, some of them I did. Yeah, and it's a very organic process, and I just go through it step by step. Sometimes I don't even think about it. I just take the pen and do what I want with it. So the thing I love about this one was all the stars, and the big stars going to the small stars, and it was just a very cool project to work on. And then the one thing I really liked about all this was I got to do a big piece with my watercolor pencils. So you can see I'm just finishing up the inking process here, adding a couple more pieces in because I had a couple blank spots and I wasn't going to just do a background fill on them. It was too much, so I went back and put a couple circles in. So here I am doing some of the watercolor pencils. I just picked a few colors that I thought really worked really well together. And the thing I love about these pencils is I can go in and just sketch in the color. Doesn't have to be perfect. You can actually see there's a lot of discrepancies in the coloring because of the indentations from the pencil on the paper from being erased and drawn. But the best part is when you go back in with the brush and the water, it fills in all those blank spots and you don't have all the discrepancies, but you also don't have to spend 2 hours coloring this piece in, pressing down hard and trying to get the gaps in the paper to fill in and to make the process just, the paper look really good. So I'm definitely in love with these watercolor pencils. I find the coloring and just adding all the details so much easier, and it's a more pleasant process. I was having fun playing with all the different colors and how I can add some detail, and you can see I started adding some darker colors to these to add a bit more depth and a bit of shadow to give it some details. So yeah, this was a really cool project, and as I was doing these colors, I wasn't too sure about the bright pink and the bright green, but I actually found that it works really well for this project. And as I start adding black in a moment, you'll see that it actually just holds the whole thing together. So this was a really great project to work on, and I hope you enjoyed the video.